Your baby is screaming, not the tired whimper, not the hungry fuss. The full, red-faced, back-arching, inconsolable scream that makes your chest physically tighten. You've tried everything. The pacifier, the bouncing, the shushing, the white noise machine that cost more than it should have. Nothing is working. And then you do the one thing you always end up doing. You pick them up. You hold them against your chest. And within seconds, sometimes before you even finish standing up, the crying stops. Not gradually, not slowly winding down. It stops. Like someone flipped a switch inside their body. Every parent in the world has felt this moment, and most of them think the same thing. My baby just wanted to be held. They were lonely. They needed comfort. They needed me close. That sounds right. It also happens to be almost entirely wrong, because what is actually happening inside your baby's body the instant you pick them up is not an emotional response. It is a biological program, one that is older than language, older than civilization, older than the human species itself. And the neuroscience behind it doesn't just explain why your baby stops crying. It reveals something extraordinary about what your body is doing to their brain without you even knowing it. Let's start with what most people believe. Babies stop crying when you hold them because they feel emotionally comforted. The warmth, the closeness, the sense of being safe, it's love, it's bonding, end of story. And it's not that this is entirely false, but it misses something fundamental. Because here's the problem with the comfort theory. It doesn't explain the speed. Think about it. If this were purely an emotional response, a baby recognizing comfort and gradually calming down, it would take time. Emotional regulation in infants is slow. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that manages emotions, is barely functional in the first months of life. A baby cannot consciously decide to feel better. And yet, the calming happens in seconds, sometimes less. Researchers have measured it. The shift from screaming to silence can occur in under 30 seconds from the moment of physical contact. That is not an emotion, that is a reflex. And when scientists finally figured out what was triggering it, the answer did not come from a psychology lab, it came from watching mice. In 2013, a neuroscientist named Kumi Kuroda at the RIKEN Center for Brain Science in Japan published a study that would fundamentally change how we understand why babies calm down when carried. Kuroda and her team had been studying something called the transport response, a behavior that had been observed across dozens of mammalian species, but never systematically measured in human infants. Here is what the transport response looks like. When a mother cat picks up her kitten by the scruff of its neck to move it, the kitten goes completely limp. It stops vocalizing. It tucks its legs. Its heart rate drops. The kitten is not choosing to be calm. Its nervous system is executing an automatic sequence that makes it easier for the mother to carry it. It is a survival mechanism hardwired into the kitten's biology. Fight the carry, risk being dropped. Go limp, survive. Kuroda wanted to know if human babies do the same thing. So her team designed an experiment. They attached portable heart monitors to infants under 6 months old and recorded what happened under 4 different conditions. Being held by a mother who was sitting still. Being held by a mother who was walking. Lying in a stationary crib. And lying in a rocking crib. The results were striking. When the mother sat and held the baby, the crying continued. Heart rate stayed elevated. The baby was in contact, but not calming. But the moment the mother stood up and began to walk, the crying stopped. Heart rate dropped. Voluntary movements ceased. The baby went from inconsolable to silent, often within 30 seconds. The walking did it. Not the holding, not the closeness, not the love. The specific combination of being held and feeling the rhythmic motion of someone carrying you triggered a coordinated neurological shutdown of the distress response. Kuroda called it a cooperative calming response. Your baby is not choosing to stop crying when you pick them up and walk. Their body is doing it for them, automatically, involuntarily, because a circuit in their brain stem, one that evolved millions of years before humans existed, is detecting the sensory signature of being transported and executing a program that says, "Stop struggling, conserve energy, you are being moved to safety." Your arms are not just comforting your baby, they are activating a biological switch that your baby cannot activate on their own. In 2022, Kuroda's team published a follow-up study in the journal Current Biology. This time, they wanted to know exactly how long you need to carry a crying baby for the calming to hold. Because every parent knows the nightmare. You walk, the baby calms, you sit back down, and the screaming starts again. They found that 5 minutes of continuous walking was the threshold. At 5 minutes, 100% of the crying babies in the study had stopped crying. Nearly half had fallen asleep. But here is the detail that shocked even the researchers. When mothers tried to put the sleeping baby down immediately after walking, more than a third of them woke up within 20 seconds. The heart monitors showed exactly why. The instant the baby's body separated from the mother's body, their heart rate spiked. Not gradually, instantly. The baby's nervous system was monitoring physical contact at a level of sensitivity that the researchers described as extraordinary. So the team tested a modification. Walk for 5 minutes. Then sit and hold the baby for another 8 minutes without putting them down. Then lay them in the crib. The success rate was dramatically higher. The babies stayed asleep. What this means is remarkable. Your baby's body is not just detecting whether you are holding them, it is detecting whether you are moving. It is detecting the moment of separation. It is tracking your heartbeat, your breathing rhythm, the micro vibrations of your steps, and it is adjusting its own physiology in real time based on those inputs. Your baby's nervous system is synchronized to yours in a way that operates entirely beneath conscious awareness. You are not just a person holding an infant. You are a biological regulation system. And your baby's brain knows this before they know anything else, because the transport response explains the speed. It explains the walking. But it doesn't explain everything. Because something else is happening at the level of skin. Researchers studying skin-to-skin contact, sometimes called kangaroo care, have documented a cascade of physiological changes that occur when a baby's bare skin touches a caregiver's chest. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, begins to drop. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, begins to rise. Heart rate stabilizes. Breathing patterns regulate. Body temperature synchronizes. The infant's entire autonomic nervous system begins to mirror the caregiver's. A systematic review published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health examined 22 studies on skin-to-skin contact between 2015 and 2020. The conclusion across all of them was consistent. Direct physical contact between caregiver and infant is not a preference, it is a regulatory mechanism. The infant's body is not fully capable of regulating its own temperature, stress hormones, or heart rhythm independently in the first months of life. It outsources that regulation to the caregiver's body. Your chest is their thermostat. Your heartbeat is their metronome. Your breathing is their pacemaker. And this is not a metaphor. Researchers at Radboud University in the Netherlands conducted a randomized controlled trial with 116 healthy mother-infant pairs. Mothers who provided just 1 hour of daily skin-to-skin contact for 5 weeks showed measurable reductions in their infants' total crying duration. The babies didn't just feel better, they cried less. Measurably, significantly, physiologically less. Because the daily contact was literally calibrating their stress response systems. Your baby is not just calming down when you hold them. They are downloading your calm. Your nervous system is the software update their body needs to function. Because none of this science would exist without a study that was conducted in the 1950s. A study so disturbing that it transformed an entire field and changed how we understand the relationship between touch and survival. Harlow was a psychologist at the University of Wisconsin. He wanted to answer a question that sounds simple. Why do infants need their mothers? The prevailing theory at the time was that infants attached to their mothers because mothers provided food. The bond was nutritional. Hunger drove attachment. Satisfy the hunger, and you satisfy the need. Harlow did not believe this, so he designed an experiment using infant rhesus monkeys. He separated newborn monkeys from their mothers and placed them in cages with two artificial surrogates. One was made of bare wire but held a bottle of milk. The other was covered in soft terry cloth but provided no food. If the feeding theory was correct, the monkeys would spend their time with the wire mother. She had the milk, she had the nutrition, she had the survival resource. They did not. The infant monkeys overwhelmingly preferred the cloth mother. They clung to her for up to 18 hours a day. They only visited the wire mother briefly to feed, then immediately returned to the cloth surrogate. When frightened, they ran to the cloth mother. When exploring, they used her as a base. When she was removed from the cage, they screamed. The monkeys were not seeking food. They were seeking touch. Contact comfort, as Harlow called it, was not secondary to nutrition. It was primary, more important than food, more urgent than warmth. The need for physical contact was the foundational need, the one upon which every other form of attachment was built. Harlow's findings were controversial. The experiment itself has been the subject of decades of ethical debate, but the core finding has never been overturned. In fact, everything we have learned since, the transport response, skin-to-skin regulation, cortisol synchronization, all of it confirms what Harlow demonstrated in the most direct way possible. Physical contact is not a nice addition to infant care. It is the mechanism through which infant survival is regulated. When your baby stops crying the moment you pick them up, they are not being dramatic. They are not being needy. They are executing a biological imperative that is literally as fundamental as hunger. And their body knows, even when their conscious mind cannot possibly understand. I want to stop here for a moment because I think this reframe is the part that matters most. There is a voice in modern parenting culture, and it is loud, that tells you holding your baby too much will spoil them. That responding every time they cry will create dependency. That you need to let them self-soothe, learn independence, toughen up, put them down, let them figure it out. The neuroscience says something completely different. Your baby cannot self-regulate, not because they are weak, not because you have coddled them, because the hardware required for independent emotional regulation literally does not exist yet in their brain. The prefrontal cortex, the neural architecture responsible for calming yourself down, managing distress, controlling emotional responses, does not fully mature until the mid-20s. In infancy, it is barely online. So when your baby cries and you pick them up and they stop, you are not creating a bad habit. You are being their prefrontal cortex. You are performing a neurological function that their brain cannot yet perform for itself. And every single time you do it, every time you respond, every time you hold them and walk and wait and let their body sink to yours, you are building the connections that will eventually allow them to do it on their own. You are not making them dependent. You are building their independence, one hold at a time. Researchers at the University of Minnesota tracked children from infancy through adulthood and found that the infants who received the most consistent responsive physical contact in the first year of life were not the most dependent adults. They were the most resilient, the most emotionally regulated, the most capable of handling stress. The hold at 6 months predicted emotional competence at 30 years. So the next time someone tells you that you hold your baby too much, remember what is actually happening. Your heartbeat is teaching their heartbeat how to beat. Your breathing is teaching their lungs how to rhythm. Your calm is becoming the template for their calm. And every time you pick them up, you are not spoiling them. You are wiring their brain for a lifetime of knowing, deep in their body, before words, before memory, before conscious thought, that when the world feels like too much, there is someone who will come. Now, I need to tell you about the one thing to watch for. Because there is a distinction that matters. Most babies calm when held. That is the transport response doing what it was designed to do. But if you notice a baby who does not respond to holding, who remains rigid or arches away from contact, who shows no change in distress level regardless of how they are held, carried or comforted, that is worth paying attention to. Atypical sensory processing, in which touch does not produce the expected calming response, can be an early signal of developmental differences that benefit from early support. It does not mean something is wrong. Every baby has a different threshold. Every nervous system calibrates on its own timeline. But pediatric researchers are clear. Early identification changes outcomes. Intervention in the first year produces results that intervention at age 3 cannot replicate. The brain's plasticity in infancy is a window that does not stay open forever. If something about how your baby responds to being held feels consistently different from what you expect, trust that instinct. You know your baby's body better than anyone. Talk to your pediatrician. That conversation is never wasted. So the next time your baby is screaming and you pick them up and silence falls across the room like magic, remember what you just learned. It is not magic. It is not comfort. It is one of the oldest biological programs in the mammalian kingdom, firing inside your baby's brainstem, recognizing the specific sensory signature of your body, and executing the only command it knows. You are safe. Stop fighting. You are being carried. 200 million years of evolution built that response, and you activate it every single time you reach for your child. If this changed how you see the moments you hold your baby, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment below. I want to know, does your baby do this? That instant switch from screaming to silence the moment you pick them up? Because now you know exactly what is happening inside their body when it does.